I wish I could say I stumbled onto the dark web by mistake, that I accidentally clicked the wrong link, fell down a rabbit hole, and got tangled in things I wasn't supposed to see. But the truth is, I went looking for it. I always had a fascination with the forbidden, the unknown, the deeper, darker side of human nature. So naturally, when I first heard whispers about the dark web, I was intrigued. I wanted to see if the stories were true, if there really were corners of the internet where the most twisted desires were indulged. I started small browsing marketplaces that sold illegal software and stolen data. It was all so mundane, but the further I went, the more curious I became. I started to hear about the truly hidden sites, the ones that required invitations, passwords, or cryptic keys. These were the places people only spoke about in code. And after months of lurking and digging, I found what I thought I was looking for. A forum post led me to a place called the Echo Files. The name alone didn't mean much, but the description beneath it piqued my interest. A place where you'll find the secrets buried by time, the truth no one else will show you. The post didn't elaborate, but there was something in its tone that hooked me. It felt different, less like a scam, more like a challenge. I clicked the link, and what I found set off a chain of events that I can never undo. The gateway. The site was stark, just a black screen with a single prompt asking for a password. Below it was a message: to hear the echoes, you must know what's lost. I didn't know the password, but that didn't stop me from trying. Over the next few days, I scoured the internet, looking for any clue about what the Echo Files might be. I visited chat rooms, messaged old contacts, and even asked some of the more seasoned hackers I knew if they'd ever heard of it. Most had no idea what I was talking about. But then I got a reply from someone under the username Eraser. They told me they'd heard of it before, but only in whispers. It's not a marketplace, Eraser said. It's not even a game. It's something older, like an archive or a vault. No one who's been in ever talks about it again. If you're smart, you'll drop it. That should have been enough to scare me off, but it wasn't. The more I heard, the more obsessed I became. It was like a puzzle I couldn't leave unfinished. Every night I spent hours trying to figure out the password, and after what felt like forever, I found it. It was buried in an old, forgotten forum. Someone had posted a string of code back in 2012, and in it, hidden between lines of junk data, was a phrase: "Dead echoes sing loudest." I didn't know what it meant, but I tried it as the password. It worked. The files. The website changed immediately. The black screen disappeared, replaced by a list of folders. They were labeled simply as numbers, dates, it seemed. The oldest one was from 1967, the most recent from just a few months ago. Each folder had dozens of files within it, all labeled as recordings. My curiosity spiked. What could these be? Old government secrets? Conspiracy theories? I clicked on the oldest file, expecting static or some kind of cryptic nonsense. What I heard was far worse. The recording started with a man's voice, trembling and breathless. He was talking fast, whispering like he didn't want to be overheard. His words were hard to follow, but I caught enough to understand that he was scared. Terrified, actually. He kept saying things like, "They're watching," and "It's not what we thought." But before I could make sense of it, there was a sudden loud noise. A bang, like a door being kicked in. The man's voice cut off, replaced by a muffled struggle, then silence. That's when the whispers started. They were faint at first, barely audible, but they grew louder as the seconds ticked by, a chorus of voices overlapping, all saying things I couldn't understand. The recording ended abruptly, leaving me staring at my screen, heart pounding. I wasn't sure what I had just heard, but it rattled me. I clicked on another file, this one from the early 70s. The same thing. Another panicked voice, another sudden silence, followed by those disturbing whispers. The files varied in length, but they all followed the same pattern. Whoever these people were, they seemed to have discovered something they shouldn't have. And it always ended the same way, with them being silenced. The whispers. I should have stopped then, I should have logged off, deleted the link, and pretended like I never found the site. But I didn't. I kept going, clicking through more files, each one more unsettling than the last. The voices were all different. Men, women, some even sounded like children. But the whispers were always the same. By the time I reached the newer files, something had changed. The voices sounded more frantic, and the whispers, they weren't just background noise anymore. They were clearer, almost intelligible. I could make out words, phrases. At first they were random, nonsensical. But then I started to notice something horrifying. The whispers were calling my name. The stalker. It wasn't long after I found the files that things started happening. Little things at first. My internet connection would drop unexpectedly, or my screen would flicker. I started getting strange emails too. Messages with no subject, filled with strings of random characters. They didn't make sense, but I could tell they weren't spam. Someone, or something, was trying to communicate with me. Then the real-world incidents began. I would hear footsteps outside my apartment at night, soft but deliberate. At first I thought I was imagining it. But then one night, I heard someone knock on my door. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. When I checked through the peephole, no one was there. I called the police, but they found nothing. No footprints, no signs of forced entry. They chalked it up to my imagination, said I was probably just spooked from being online too much. I wanted to believe them, but deep down I knew better. I had opened a door and now something was watching me. The descent. I stopped sleeping after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard those whispers. Louder now, insistent, as if they were in the room with me. They would call my name over and over, urging me to listen, to keep digging. I became obsessed with the files. I started listening to them non-stop, trying to find a pattern, a clue that would explain what was happening. But the more I listened, the more the whispers seemed to bleed into my life. I would hear them when I wasn't even on the computer. Whispers coming from the vents, the walls, even from my own phone. One night, while listening to a recording from 1995, I heard something that chilled me to the bone. The man in the recording was begging for his life, pleading with whoever was on the other end of the line. And then, just before the whispers overtook him, he said my name. I stopped the file immediately, my hands shaking. How could that be possible? These recordings were decades old. There was no way they could know my name. Unless they weren't just recordings. Unless the echoes were still alive, still watching, still listening. The final recording. I don't know how long it's been since I first found the echo files. Days have blurred into weeks, and I haven't left my apartment in what feels like forever. The whispers are constant now, filling every corner of my mind. They don't stop. They never stop, and I can't escape them. A new email arrived this morning. It contained a single file, labeled with today's date. My hands trembled as I clicked on it, my breath hitching in my throat. The recording started with silence, then the familiar sound of someone speaking. Only this time, it wasn't a stranger's voice. It was mine. The whispers followed soon after, louder than ever, surrounding me, suffocating me. I tried to turn the recording off, but my computer froze. The whispers continued, growing more frantic, more demanding. And then, just as the recording ended, I heard it, clear as day. A knock at my door. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. And this time I know they're not leaving.